So when you say somatic, are you doing somatic meditation, somatic therapy? I did get into that a little bit as I was trying to heal from trauma and really heal my body, because a lot of times we do a lot of spiritual work and mental work and even emotional work, but sometimes the trauma sits in the body or the negative beliefs in our chakras, right? I'm into Reiki, I get Reiki and all that stuff done too. So and breath work has really helped me like stabilize myself more. I do Wim Hof breath work all the time. But so what's your experience with the somatic therapy, whatever kind of somatic work you do in breath work, and how is it beneficial? Like what kind of impact it has? Like, do you do that with your clients or you just do it yourself or yeah?
So I do both. Breath work is it's wonderful. I started with Wim Hof. That
I
retreat
love
in
Wim Hof.
Arizona
Oh,
is introduced to Wim Hof. I came home and introduced my husband to it, and then we started doing it together every morning. So Wim Hof, right? And then before you know it, I'm like, I want to get certified in journey breath work because that's the deep shit is what am I allowed to cuss? I'm sorry
oh,
if I'm
you're
not.
okay. Hey,
The deep work is like what I love to do, hence why Brian says I red pill people, right? But so I got certified in just journey breath work. So I can take people really deep to the point where they're releasing DMT into their body and they're having full on psychedelic experiences. And
nice.
that is so powerful. And my husband, he got certified in I can't remember off the top of my head what the actual title of his is, but he's certified in like 27 different types of breath
Oh
work.
wow.
Uh, yeah, so when we have our events and things, like we do it daily together, but we still pretty much kind of just do Wim Hof because it's the most basic. But well, I shouldn't say it's the most basic. That was wrong. That it's not the most basic. It's what we know. It's our certainty. It's what we come
Yeah,
back to.
I do it every day. I
Um,
did it right before this podcast, actually. Yeah.
yeah, to help me ground, right?
Yeah,
And
grounding. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So breath work in general is like you can help move some serious emotions out of your body if you just know what breath work to use. And that's where, he comes in handy because he's certified breathwork facilitator now. But I'll give you an example. So like cold therapy, people go, "Oh, I could never do that." Well, breath work and cold therapy go hand in hand. And my husband taught me this breath work. Like if I need to take a cold shower, or if we really oh, here's a good example. We went to Vermont in October. We had a retreat in Vermont with Seasons of Change. That's our company. And it was like in the 40s there, and we went to a waterfall and we utilized cold therapy in the
Mm.
waterfall. Well, everybody was, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be so cold," because the water was like 27 degrees. Okay. So, um, I had one of my clients who I've worked with for over a year now. She was on the rock next to me as we're getting ready to plunge in, and she starts crying. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And I'm consoling her. And she's like, "I feel like I'm being forced to do this." And I was like, "No, no, no. Hey, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. This is not us forcing you to do anything. We, yes, push past your comfort zone because that's what this trip is about.
Mm.
But like, do it one step at a time." And when she realized we weren't forcing her to do it, it totally changed the game. But I said, "I'm going to breathe with me. Breathe with me for just a second. Let's get in together and breathe with me." And she was like, "Okay." So we got in up to our like necks, and she was starting to hyperventilate, which a lot of people do when they get in cold water. And I said, "Okay, we're going to breathe in for 2 seconds, hold it for 2 seconds, breathe out for 2 seconds. And then we're going to repeat the cycle until you're comfortable where you're at." She was like, "Okay, okay." So we start in for 2 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, release for 2 seconds. And within, a couple counts of that, she had totally calmed down. She had relaxed her nervous system to where
Mm.
she was now comfortable in that 27-degree water. She was no longer panicked. And that breath work is called combat breathing. It's what your Navy SEALs use
I've
when
heard of
they're
that.
in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, wow.
So it's the way it can calm you. And then I'm in the process right now. I just started the program. but for somatic movement. What I've realized so far is that when we're having a somatic experience, meaning we're tense and we could potentially hold that in our body and create
Yeah.
pain later down the first thing to do, like if you notice, for example, you're driving and all of a sudden you're gripping the steering wheel like really hard. Okay, I just realized I'm gripping the steering wheel really hard. So then you can consciously choose to let your hands relax. And if you have awareness of your breath, you will then also notice that while you were gripping the steering wheel really hard, you were probably breathing very shallow, maybe even through your mouth, which
Yeah.
is a stress response.
Hmm.
And you were probably tensing like every muscle in your body at the same time. And so, what was happening in that experience for you, if you can look inside and reflect and just take a deep breath and release all those muscles, let that breathing return to normal through your nose, because that's why God gave us, or the universe gave us our noses, right? Is to breathe through them. And then allow those hands to relax. You can actually then focus on what happened in my experience to cause that somatic experience, which, then could cause pain later in life in my body. So it's going to be about learning to release trauma through being really present with the
With
body
your
itself.
body.
But
Yeah.
so I've got all the mind stuff, right? I've got RTT for the mind. I've got breath work to help with the parasympathetic, or the nervous system. And then now I'm like, all right, I need somatic healing, somatic movement to help release all this stored trauma that I have in my body. So that then one day I can be at my optimal. Like I was driving home today from my mom and dad's and I was visualizing like the way I want to look when I'm 50, because I'm going to be 40 this year.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I'm, on my journey, like back into health and all that jazz. And I'm not unhealthy, so to speak, but I'm heavier right now than I've been in a really long time.
Same here.
And so,
man. And it's emotional eating too. Sometimes because I know I still have, traumatic things that I'm working through as well, and I've done all the work, like a lot of work spiritually, mentally, and emotionally even, but the body, I feel like the physical, that's where a lot of the remaining stuff is stored. And I'm even asking myself when I want to emotionally eat, when I'm sitting there eating for no reason, I'm like, I'm not even hungry. Why am I eating? So I'm kind of sitting with it. Why do I feel like eating is a thing? It's a comfort. And I think as women, as we're getting older, our hips get bigger. We just, it's in the way in the food in our society too. That's a whole nother thing on itself. I'm learning to eat more superfoods and healthier, but I think that's another program. Like the way I ate growing up was, isn't really working for me now. I'm starting to see the way I feel after I eat certain things, and I'm trying to keep balance with exercising and stuff. But I think but I almost feel resistance sometimes when I want to even exercise, because I think sometimes your body wants to hold on to the trauma, like it doesn't want to let it go. Do you ever feel that way? Sometimes I feel like it doesn't want to release it. It feels like it, so I'm like, oh, I need to do more work. I've been doing more like somatic meditations and stuff too, and like movements. It's work, it's the holistic view. Everything's connected. Your spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, right? So we have to do work on all the areas, and the physical can seem like the hardest because it's like the densest, but if we can work on that too, get some of that energy moving there, and that's why Reiki's really helped me a lot too. I get Reiki sessions done often, and I want to continue. I was taking Reiki classes before, like to become a Reiki master, but we'll see about that. But I think it's important to get the energy moving, and I even force myself to just go on walks sometimes, when I have a lot of resistance. Sometimes you don't want to go to the damn gym. Sometimes I'm sitting there chilling at my apartment. I don't want to go. I'm not in the mood to go work out on machines in front of people and stuff. So sometimes I do little things like I'll take the dog on the walk, or nature's been really helpful for me, in healing and stuff too. So yeah, that's a whole nother thing in itself.
Absolutely. When I'm feeling a lot of resistance to just doing what I need to do, and it's hard especially if you're in the north during the winter because there's snow on the ground. But when I'm able to do this, I'm in Florida, so it's a little different for me. I'll take my shoes off and just go put my feet in the
I
grass.
love earthing. Yeah, I did that today actually. Yeah, yeah,
'Cause so when you put your bare feet on the green grass,
yeah,
it literally floods your body with so many positive electrons
yeah.
that they cannot be counted by a machine.
Wow. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
That's, that is a huge like, and then taking a couple of deep breaths in, and just letting that sun penetrate your face and your arms or whatever. It's so healing. And yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I think it's back to the basics for healing. Sometimes we think it has to be like this intense, like we have to. I mean, there is a lot of work to do, especially if you're doing, like I was getting into the Akashic record healing, all that. I get into that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's really just simple. It's like back to the basics, just like living a healthier lifestyle, like going out in the sun, yeah, putting your feet on the bare grass, like just resting. A lot of times it's really simple, and to even heal our nervous system and stuff. My nervous system is used to being like stimulated a lot, and I feel weird when I rest. I'm like, why do I feel weird when I'm resting? Why does it feel weird to take a day to rest? That's another thing. I guess a couple more things. We'll go into the retreats last. I want to talk more about your retreats. So the last thing I think about is self-love. So for people that are struggling to really like love themselves, even people, we've all made bad decisions. We're all human beings here. We all even have karmic lessons from past lives, right? There's a lot of programming. There's a lot of outside sources telling us why we're not worthy, why we shouldn't love ourselves. So, what advice would you give to someone who's really struggling to love themselves? And I don't just mean like physically, mentally, emotionally, like having like radical acceptance and like even just, I guess that goes into like confidence as well. Like someone who's struggling with that.
Yeah. Gosh, that's it's a really interesting question because oftentimes, we don't even realize that we don't love ourselves because we're putting so much attention on the people around us and receiving validation from them.
Yep.
Uh, and so I think if somebody's really struggling with just accepting their self, um, the best thing I think of right now is like there's this activity that I do from time to time, and it's where I will just stand in the mirror naked and I will observe my body and my face and just observe, not and intentionally choose not to have judgment, right? But also be able to hold space for myself if those judgments arrive.
Hmm.
And when it's over and done with, I would journal about my experience.
Hmm.
What came for me? What was the hardest? Like, was it difficult to observe? What about it caused it to be difficult to observe? And I think once we can begin to accept the way we look and all of our glory and be okay with that.
Like very raw too. Yeah. Like, yeah, I agree. I do some mirror work sometimes too. Yeah. Like that. Yeah.
Then that's like the gateway into realizing, oh, I am allowed to express my emotions too. And that could be, for somebody who's struggling with loving themselves, just realizing or finally standing up for their self and saying what they're thinking to someone who maybe they've been not necessarily afraid of, but intimidated by, or feels like has more power than them. Like anything that allows you to share from a really vulnerable spot
Yeah.
is instantly going to increase your confidence and
Yeah.
your self-worth, and then initially that internal love cycle, because we don't do that. We're told we can't. So when we do and we receive it, or it's received well by the people around
Yeah.
us, that's why having those 5 people is really important. Because if Aunt Sally down the road, is like really entrained in her way of being, she's probably not the person to get vulnerable with, right?
Yeah.
But if you have somebody who's always there to support you, and they really, their goal in life is to hear you and see you, then when you share who you really are, all of a sudden it becomes more natural to not only do it with that person, but then to do it with others around you too. And often that's how our family members end up going, well, look at this one. What happened to her? Where'd we go wrong with that one? You know? But for us, that's perfect, because then you embrace the fact that they feel that way, and it gives you 100% ability to just be yourself. Because then at that point, it's a transitional phase. You start here, and then you just take small steps towards that radical self-love. You do this or you do that. You stand in the mirror naked and admire yourself intentionally. You tell somebody who you're afraid of what you really want to say instead of what you think they want to hear.
Yeah.
Just little things that move you in the right direction.
Yeah, and those little things can really go a long way. And I think just showing yourself love, I think a lot of it's being gentle with yourself and self-care. The more I do for my self-care, whether I'm exercising, whether I'm having a day of rest, whether I'm just eating better, the little things I meditated today, I did some breath work, like those little things, showing more love to yourself. Yeah. And that kind of helps you feel more stable. And then we have to understand that some people aren't going to support us on your journey. Sometimes we have our family members are in alignment with where we want to go. We have friends, and that goes back to the 5 people, but we have to just be okay with not everybody's going to understand our journey. And sometimes when you're doing more stuff to love yourself and setting those boundaries and everything, like it can upset or trigger certain people, or it makes people feel uncomfortable. And that, sometimes they're not your people, or or you just have to really pay attention to when you are improving and loving yourself more, who's on board with that. Because I've had this happen in my past, like when I was, relationships I was in, or friendships, when I was starting to do better, it's almost like it's like they had a problem with it. I was like, oh wow, why is that like a problem? I understand it could be something within the self, but it's like, oh, maybe these aren't people I want to be around. And it's not about being angry. It's just about everyone's on their own path, on their own journey, and and maybe you just need to create some distance from those people. With family members can be different because it's your family, but sometimes you have to there's still ways to set healthy boundaries or distance yourself. I've had to do that myself. It's not easy, but that's also showing more self-love for yourself. Hey, I'm protecting my energy, and this person, I don't feel vibrationally good when I'm around this person, or I don't know why I feel, but I'm not saying everything's all their fault and there's nothing wrong with me. Sometimes there's some shadow work too. Why am I feeling this way? But sometimes you gotta trust your intuition and just do what's best for you. Do what you can to protect your own energy, but also accept others for who they are. It's not about trying to change other people, but if you're on this journey and this person isn't, you might just vibrationally separate, and that's okay. That's supposed to happen. People get lonely when they're on this journey. Sometimes you're like on an island by yourself. You're like, man, no one around me is trying to heal or love themselves, or even going through a spiritual awakening, and it just kind of being okay with even sitting with yourself, sometimes for a while. And you'll find people that resonate with you that are on the same path, or a partner or whatever, just kind of being okay. We talk about back to self, just like back to yourself. Like at the end of this life, you're back to yourself, right? Anyway, so it's all just experiences. It's all a journey, and I think just being okay with where you're at. Wherever you're at is okay. You're exactly where you need to be. I think that's what I tell people, and I have to tell myself, even when I look around, I'm like, man, I feel like it's all this comparison, like you think this should be better, I should be here by now. It's all that programming, that woulda, shoulda. Where does that come from? I think it's like analyzing, like, why do I believe that? Why? If you keep asking why, you'll get to the limiting belief, Yeah.
That's right. Why is a super powerful question.
Yeah.
For sure. And going back to what you said a minute ago about vibrationally separating, it's literally science. Yeah. It's when 2 atoms merge, they come together because they have a similarity.
Yeah.
And so they vibrate towards one another, and then they merge and they create a bond. Then likewise, when that bond is no longer strong, meaning their vibrations are changing,
yeah,
then they begin to vibrate apart. Even in the hard stuff, is perfect where it's at, even when it's hard.
And that's where you have the most growth and transformation. And I always say, if you're not being challenged, you aren't evolving. If you're in your comfort zone every single day and everything's all peachy and everything, you're not evolving. I mean, that's good. I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy where you're at, but the biggest thing with me getting over addiction, just overcoming some of the negative patterns I had, was just, I'm getting okay with being uncomfortable. You gotta be able to just sit with the uncomfortability, because that's how you're going to change, and eventually it becomes more comfortable. But when you like pull something away from someone, maybe you had a relationship pattern where you always had to be with somebody, or you're addicted to substances, whatever it is, it's just like whatever you're going to remove that's toxic for you, it's like you're going to be uncomfortable because you're used to having whatever that is. Or it could just be a thought pattern, or the way you're feeling or something. So it's like being very gentle with yourself while you're going through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess the last thing, let's talk about your retreats, and then we can sign off for here. So I know you do these retreats, and I know I've been seeing your posts, and I think that's very inspiring. So let's just say your next retreat, either your next one you have coming up or your latest one, like what do you do or what are you doing at that retreat, and like just the kind of like what just I guess what you do in general at these retreats, and what kind of transformation and people can expect, and even information if people wanted to sign up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity to share about the retreats. So we just finished the Love Thyself. It was our first all women's retreat. So my husband was not involved. It was not through Seasons of Change, but Seasons of Change is like my retreat. It was literally a group of women said, we want you to lead a women only experience. And I just did this 31-day challenge in December for the Love Dare Challenge. And so I thought, well, here's our opportunity. Let's keep loving ourselves, So we did, and it was just a weekend. It was 3 days in Outer Banks, North Carolina. And it was beautiful. We meditate. We cleanse and clear the space. We do breath work. There's gentle yoga at this one. There was supposed to be gentle yoga on the beach, but it rained.
Yeah.
So there was no gentle yoga on the beach, but it turned into like a dance party inside.
That's awesome.
And
yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, and it's really about being in community, eating healthy during that time. Went out and explored the local area. And this one was probably the most relaxed experience that I've done. And then we don't have our next retreat planned just yet. We thought we were going to be in Oregon this summer, the end of the summer. And something has come up in the last couple of weeks that made us go, maybe that's not the best choice. And so we're kind of pulling back, and we're reevaluating where do we want to go and when is that going to be. And so we're thinking of maybe doing like a reunion experience instead of like a brand new retreat, since we don't have the allotted time we want for this next one. But there will definitely be retreats coming in the future. But each retreat we've done is different. There's always the core components of meditation, breath work, yoga.
That's great. Yeah.
We always have some kind of like cocktail party or something, because we want it to be fun. There's always ecstatic dance. There's healthy, clean eating. And, mostly it's the community, like healing together.
I love that. Yeah.
We don't really have the opportunity for RTT, because we don't have 2-hour increments where I could spend hours with everybody. That would be a lot of energy. But we have Reiki, like our yoga instructor, she's also Reiki certified. Awesome. And then we have sound healing and EFT as well.
I love all that stuff.
That instructor is, yeah, we sometimes have plant medicine, like we may have cacao. We've had psilocybin at past events. It just depends on our clientele and who's coming to what. Like when we went to Vermont, we climbed a mountain, and then we got to the top of that mountain and we climbed the fire tower on top of the mountain. And by the time we were finished, we were 8,300 feet above sea level.
Oh, wow.
And cold and raining, and the wind was blowing. And those people were so proud of themselves for what they'd accomplished, because if they could do that, they could do anything at that point. And so they got to the top of that fire tower, and then they sounded their barbaric yawp. You know, they just let it go, like screaming over the mountaintops. And it was beautiful,
Oh, wow,
that
that's awesome.
experience,
That
you
sounds
know?
great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, then the next day was like a really slow day where we did gentle yoga. We got in the hot tub. We hung out. Like we just experienced one another, and we had integration circles and things like that. And then day 3, we went and did the cold plunge at the waterfall and went swimming. And then my husband had them build theirs. He's a heathen. So he, uh, um, he studies the Norse gods, and he had them do, like, they built, I can't remember what it's called, but it was like the thing that they were letting go of. We held funerals for all of those things, and we rocks around the waterfall, and they built like their headstone or whatever with the rocks, and then they wrote down what they were releasing on paper, and we burnt it, and we held space for them while they did it, and then they celebrated afterwards that they were letting that go. And it was just, there's so many different things that we do. It's really a one of a kind experience each time.
That's awesome. So. It's really, it sounds like very transformational. People leave feeling refreshed. And I think, and it's the people that make it too, because every person has their own, you know, things that they're working on, and that they're working on healing and their own like purpose. And you're all coming together, and everyone can offer like different energies and different perspectives. And I really like that, the coming together and doing events like that, and for the purpose of healing and just enjoying yourselves too and having fun. I think, you know, some people will they do the ayahuasca ceremonies, and some, you know, there's all different kinds of events. And, you know, I think some people forget to have fun too, regardless of what you're doing. You know, it's just an experience, and you're learning from it, and it's kind of awakening you to maybe a different part of yourself that you didn't know was there, you know, back to self, which is the topic of this video. So. Yeah.
It's all about, we push you, and then we bring you back into that inner child playtime, you know, where you get to just have fun and experience like what's going on around you. We bobbed for apples in Vermont.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah. I would love that.
It was right around Halloween, you know, so we did a lot. Like we were going to play hide and go seek outside at nighttime, and it rained. So we ended up bobbing for apples inside and then karaokeing all night long. But it was just like, you had these really intense experiences, and then you have these just, I can let go and just be free and have so much fun right now, because the people around me are not judging me. Yeah. You know, they're here with me, same thing. And that's it. Yeah, it's just a really once in a lifetime experience. And Brian and I work really hard to make sure that no experience is the same as the previous one. Might be similar in the sense of breath work and meditation and yoga, and some other things. And now we'll be incorporating, you know, somatic movement moving forward and stuff like that. Yeah. But we always come up with different ways to. And again, it's based on the audience, like who's there with us this time and what are they capable of doing, because we're not going to push anybody to a space that they're not capable of. Yeah. You know what I mean? Safety is a big thing. And so we want to make sure that everybody is safe when they're with us. And then some things are out of control, you know, they're out of our control, but yeah, we're pretty proud of those experiences.
Yeah, no, it looks like fun. Every time I see your posts, they look very fun. They look like something I want to do. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we would love to have you sometime in the future. We just got to redirect now and figure out where we're going next, since our location, that was pretty much what happened. Is the location we had planned on going in Oregon, that kind of fell through for us. So now we have to readjust and figure out what we're going to do. But that's okay, because that opened me up to be able to facilitate at someone else's retreat that same week. So
it all has a purpose, you know. Maybe it was meant to go in another direction, or it'll lead you something even better. And that's all part of the journey too. You know, I think when things don't go right or don't go the way you have planned or the way the program is set, it's like being okay with it and like flowing with it and being open to something different. I think that's a big part of
Absolutely.
healing and just evolving and everything. So
What's the gift in this?
yeah, there's always a silver lining. And that's why no matter what experience I've had, like just no matter what it is, there's some kind of silver lining. You might not see it right now, but sometimes it's like later on, you're like, oh, this happened because this was connected to this, and I met this person or I had this experience and this didn't work out because this was supposed to. It's all connected. I think that's really cool how everything's works out like that sometimes or often.
Love it.
Yep. Well, Brittany, I think we had a pretty good chat. Do you have anything else you want to leave the audience off with?
I would just say if if you're interested, if something I said today piqued your interest in any way, please reach out. I'm Brittany Keziah Smith on Facebook. And I also have a YouTube channel that has a few meditations on it. And that is called Life Breath with Brittany Smith. I'm real big on breathing life, but I didn't want to use breathing life. So it's Life Breath with Brittany Smith. And then our retreats are Seasons of Change retreats. And I know that's a lot of information I just threw at you.
I'll put the links in the show notes and in the YouTube video. Yeah, I'll put the links here.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, well, thank you for coming on, Brittany. It's been we had a really good chat, and I really appreciate your time. And I love that you recorded outside because it gives kind of a different view. And it's good for people to get outside in nature. And sometimes I feel better when I'm in nature, even like I've done like videos in nature, and I think it's good to you feel more like I don't know, more grounded, more fun, more like nature's very healing. So I really like that you did this video in nature as well. I can relate.
Thank you. Like I told you, I love having my feet on the bare grass, and it's gorgeous here today, so I took advantage.
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, we are going to sign off on Trailblazers of the Universe podcast. Make sure to give a follow, like, or a 5-star rating where applicable. And this video will be on my YouTube channel as well. So make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. If something resonated with what Brittany said, or if you have any comments or any feedback, or if you're going through similar experiences and what has helped you with healing or reprogramming your subconscious mind, then make sure to drop a comment. Much peace and love and light to everybody. Namaste.
Thank you.